a little bit worried about losing the expedition to Jagborough Beach. He has a line of satisfaction due to the other participants' worries. His girl cousin cries painfully because of scraping her knee against the step of the carriage. And although Nicholas complains the aunt about this matter, she does not pay much attention to it. He further points out about Bobby's tight shoe and it was hurting it, which hamper running on the sand of the beach. Again, the aunt's negative responses suggest that she would not mind the children's joy on the beach, but only the punishment and imposed to the Nicholas who stayed at the home. That is why she said, "You are not going to go into the gooseberry garden." This is quite clear that she has a doubt whether Nicholas would turn the punishment into another treat by going into the gooseberry garden to taste the fruit to enjoy under the shade of plants and trees in the gardens, which is like a paradise for children. And uh, thinking that is possible to be disgraced and be in the gooseberry garden at the same time. Nicholas feels that aunt's reasoning is flawed, and however, he has no intention trying to get into the garden as he has another plans. He knows that the aunt believes that he will try to steal into the forbidden paradise as and thereby, and she will keep a watch on him. Thus, the story uh, reveals the reveals vividly and suggests that the aunt is really wicked and revengeful. She is insensitive to the needs of the children. She behaves like a dictator without listening to the problems of the children. Her only psychological approach to mold the children uh, in an obstinate inflicting punitive justice. As a result, children became more aggressive, disobedient, mischievous, and obstinate. Thus, the aunt seems to be inexperienced and impractical to deal with the uh, psychological needs for the children, and she magnifies the trivial things done by the children by forgetting her own childhood and having understood the true nature of the aunt. Nicholas always tries to find out the ways and the means of mocking and provoking her. He also continues his critical and satirical attitude towards they aren't exposing her weaknesses. As the result, the conflict between Nicholas and Arns develops uh, as the time goes, and then both of them try their best to face each another with wit and grit. And when we look at more, the writer provides us a vivid picture about Gooseberry Garden more, and there were two doors for the entrance. We get visual images about the things growing in the such as artichokes, raspberry canes, fruit bushes, flower beds, and strawberries. And a small boy like Nicholas could easily hide and sneak there because of the overgrown artichokes, excessive raspberry canes, and other fruit bushes garden uh, of the gooseberry garden. And it is ironic that the punishment given to Nicholas uh, has come back to the aunt herself because she has to spend 1 or 2 hours in trivia gardening in the gooseberry garden. and keep a watchful eye on the two doors to prevent Nicholas' entrance. And thus the aunt loses the fine opportunity to stay at home freely in a relaxed mood without any noise and disturbances of the children in the afternoon. And a watchman. This is obviously help us to analyze the aunt's character as a woman of few ideas. That means her world is so small, like a cocoon with the depth of her life, far sightness, perception, and imagination. It is paradoxical that the phrase "a woman of few ideas" contradicts with the immense power of concentration. Here, we wonder how a person with high concentration has few ideas. It is evident that the aunt makes us uh, use of a positive ability, the power of concentration, not for the betterment of the benefit or the benefit of the others around her or herself, but for the trivial matters like inflicting punishments for the small young children, organizing expeditions for someone's displeasure, closing the gates of children's paradise, and so on and so on. And the aunt is very much certain that Nicholas may go into the gooseberry garden at any moment. This is because Nicholas questioned why not at the previous occasion when the aunt declared the prohibition to go into the gooseberry garden. Thus, Nicholas has already assured that aunt uh, he has every intention to go into the gooseberry garden. Uh, so she states herself the garden like a soldiers to stand guard to prevent the passage of the unauthorized person within the watchful range of the two possible entrance doors. Nicholas makes two sorry attempts to get into the garden, but he cannot avoid the watchful uh, eye of the aunt. Therefore, uh, he gives up his intention of trying to get into the gooseberry garden. Then he decides to execute a plan of action which originated in his mind, and it is going inside the lumber room. In the past, in Britain, there was a separate room in a large house to store the furniture or many other valuable or necessary or unnecessary things that were not in use. It was called a lumber room, and it was like a storeroom. And in the story, this lumber room is always kept closed without allowing the children to enter it. Only it is allowed only for the privileged people like his aunt could open it. So first, Nicholas faces the challenge of opening the door of the lumber room, and though he finds out the key, however, he had pre-practiced of opening the door with a key at the school. He applies the knowledge and experience to open the door with the key of the lumber room. It is ironic that uh, a child without knowing how to uh, unlock a door, it is a very simple thing because uh, every child can learn it very easily. But we can see that Nicholas doesn't is not very good at it, and he learns from it in the school. And many children learn many things from their house and from their guardians and parents. And unlocking a lock is such a simple thing, and aunts can uh, aunt can teach it to Nicholas, but she didn't do it because she is too busy at giving punishments and uh, about her authoritative and tyrannical activities. And Nicholas, uh, as Nicholas is uh, a boy of unexplained imagination power, and he learns it from the school, and he unlocks the door very easily. And uh, Nicholas, uh, as he opens the door, uh, he uh, he notices many things, and he was very surprised. And Nicholas quickly notices that it is a large room and exposed to light through the high window opening to the gooseberry garden. Therefore, the inside of the lumber room is dimly lit. Nicholas further observes inside the room and discovers that there's a storeroom of unimaginative treasures. The aunt finds out other elders thought the items would be spoiled by use so that it was locked and kept inside. As a result, most of the items in the lumber room are covered with dust and damp. Nicholas is uh, draws a contrast between other parts of the house and lumber room. He thereby understand that the things in the lumber room are very much impressive and delightful, and therefore the adult's decision to consign it proves that they do not have any artistic or aesthetic sense. And as far as the items in the lumber rooms are concerned, each and every items arouses Nicholas's imagination and creativity. A piece of frame tapestry becomes a cynosure in the room, and the picture designed on it brings him a live scene in a creative mind. It shows that how creative he is. It's a picture of a man hunting a stag. The hunter is dressed in a hunting costume. It seems like he is from an uh, past remote period. And there were two spotted dogs, and he has just transfixed a stag with an arrow, and two more arrows are left in his uh, arrow holder. And he sits and begins to dream about the fate of the hunter and what is going to happen next. And the wolves could be more than the visible number. Hence, he is confused and anxious uh, mind whether the hunter and his dogs are in a fatal and crucial situation, being unable to cope with the coming danger of the wolves. And while concentrating and hunting scene of the tapestry, Nicholas pays his attention to some other delightful objects like twisted candlesticks uh, in a shape of stakes, teapot fashioned uh, like Chinese Mandarin duck, and curved sandalwood box, little brass figures, and more. The other more eye-catching uh, items of the large square book with black covers, although its outer appearance is less attractive and promising, it contains are really wonderful with the colorful pictures of birds. And he notices many birds that he doesn't know, and he also notices the birds like magpie, wood pigeons, uh, and he goes and which he sees when he goes for a walk. But here he gets more opportunity to see more number of birds and appreciate the colorings of some birds. Thus, Nicholas enjoy the admiring the things and experiencing a lot of being in lumber room. In this part of the story, the writer makes us uh, hate and criticize the ways of meaning and of adapting and molding the children in a very restricted and dominative manner, and by parents and caregivers. And childhood is the period of children to learn through many observations, experiments, experience, and free thinking, solving problems, and so on. And there should be a conductive environment and atmosphere for a child to explore and create. And here, it is not given to a child, a little child like Nicholas. And furthermore, as we consider the story, Nicholas uh, explores and admires the many things in the lumber room, as he notices and admires the thing. As he admires the thing, he also know that the aunt will come and notice him. So he drastically knows everything, and he just puts everything in the correct places where he took it, and he locks the lumber room and put the key into the cupboard where he took it, and he just leaves again and escapes that he doesn't know anything. And aunt comes that she thinks that Nicholas came to the gooseberry garden, and she is very sure in her idea, and she is shouting and she's shouting Nicholas again, and uh, she likes to confirm that Nicholas is in the gooseberry garden. As she walks through the gooseberry garden, she topples and falls into the rainwater tank, and this scene evokes humor to the readers. And Nicholas and she screams again, and Nicholas comes to the rainwater tank and she asks Nicholas to fetch the ladder to in order to bring her out of the rainwater tank. And here, the Nicholas uses this golden opportunity to uh, explain the authoritative and the wrong guidelines of the aunt uh, when carrying the children. And this makes the aunt think, and here the Nicholas also pulls out the idea of the evil and the good one. And he also brings the scene of the aunt. Nicholas before Nicholas asked about the strawberry jam, but aunt told that there wasn't any strawberry jam. But Nicholas checked that there were strawberry jams, and aunt lied to Nicholas. And uh, uh, and considering all the things done by aunt to Nicholas, Nicholas leaves the aunt into the rainwater tank to be rescued by the kitchen maid, and Nicholas leaves and walks away, and the aunt is uh, rescued by the uh, kitchen maid. And in the we can see the last scene, which is the connecting scenes of the all scenes, which is the evening tea scene. Here, everybody stays in a frozen, muted state because everybody is thinking in many other in thinking in a different point of views. Aunt is thinking about the scene of her falling into the rainwater tank and the things Nicholas had spoken to her. And Nicholas thinking about uh, the things he saw in the lumber room, and he is feeling very happy about his entry in the lumber room and his successful escape from the lumber room. And the Bobby and the other cousins are thinking about their bad experience in the Jagborough sands as the little cousin sister scraped her knee and the Bobby's hurting boots. And this scene uh, brings many ideas to the reader's mind. And let's look at the characterization of the character Nicholas. Nicholas is the protagonist of the short story Lumber Room, and who is very much similar to uh, Saki's, whose childhood is very much similar to Saki's childhood. And Nicholas is portrayed, and we look at, if you look at the first one, his ability to control and create the events. Nicholas is portrayed as a child who is capable of creating and controlling events, and the shrewd way he does this depicts the intelligence of the character too. For example, at the beginning of the story, uh, he creates a situation where the aunt uh, has been proved to be profoundly error and in matters about which she had expressed in the utmost assurance. Further, the dialogue which ensues after the children are sent uh, on the harshly planned expedition and conveys that Nicholas uses an in prompt strategies to put the aunt who does not have any quick, sharp brain into a difficult position as she made aware of the truth. And the children would not enjoy the expedition uh, by Nicholas, and she loses control. The aunt loses control of the situation and changes the subjects as she confronted with loss of face. And additionally, the question and answer session between Nicholas and the aunt when while she was in the rainwater tank only conveys the shrewdness, but also the maturity in a strategic handling situation. Let's we let's look at the maturity of Nicholas. Nicholas' maturity is especially clear when we compare with the juvenile behavior of the other children. And Nicholas does not shed in tear when he's excluded from the expedition to the Jagborough Sands. And though it was expected for him, but in contrast, his girl cousins howl and weeps when she scraped her knee in the carriage. And the tightness of Bobby's boots has a disastrous effect on his temper. The other children suffer without complaining, but Nicholas is not afraid of the aunt, and he is smart enough to point out her flaws. He criticizes her child rearing capabilities, pointing out her lack of attention to the children's need, which is suggested here. And uh, when we look at the aunt's characteristic here, who is the protagonist of the character, who is very much similar to the two aunts of the Saki, and she is very self-righteous. The aunt's self-righteousness is characterized by the idea that one should be totally well-nurtured, nurtured. It was her habit. Whenever one of the children fell from grace to disgrace, to improvise something of a festival nature from which the offender would be rigorously debarred. If all the children sin collectively, they were suddenly informed of circus in a neighboring town, a circus, unrivaled merit, and uncounted elephant, to which but her depravity, they would have been taken that very day. She always considers their actions to as a correct punishment is deserved by every children for misbehavior. She has a punishment for every childish depravity, whether individual of collective, and she feels that it uh, it is correct to keep beautiful things under lock and key without from the eyesight of the children, and a teapot fashion like China duck and out of whose open beak and they were supposed to come uh, was in the these uh, uh, like these things. There are many things in the lumber room which are sealed from the eyes of the uh, children. And when we look at the another characteristic of the aunt, she is unimaginative. The aunt is a woman of few ideas, so she thinks that she is wiser. Her weaknesses are indirectly conveyed to reader through her behavior and thoughts. The most pleasurable outings of outings for the children she devises consist of the expedition uh, to the seaside or the circus of the neighboring town. And these planned outings are so boring to Nicholas. His resourceful mind finds alternative ways to enjoying himself. She spends a long time in the gooseberry garden doing trivial gardening operations. It looks uh, the whole period Nicholas spent in the lumber room her to grow suspicious about his uh, about his disturbances and uh, uh, other things. And throughout this period, and she imagined that she was still trying to get into the gooseberry garden. For her, wholesome food is the breakfast of an unappetizing bread and milk. We can infer that bread and milk has been served continuously at the breakfast of Nicholas's uh, breakfast for Nicholas. As Nicholas rebels against the loathsome food pudding by putting frog in it, and within the limited scope of Aunt's mind, she could uh, only picture the whitish, gooey, tasteless bread and as the milk as wholesome. In contrast, the author shows us what children like strawberry jam, which is bright red, delicious, and nutritious. And we can see the main theme as here as the generation gap, and we can see the generation gap is the main theme here. uh, the Nicholas is the representative of the younger generation, and Aunt is the representative of the older generation. And we can see the generation gap by many things. And first, we can see it from Aunt uh, uh, from the breakfast scene, and Nicholas. We can see that the repetitive manner of the bread and milk made Nicholas uh, angry, and he made it as a prank. And Nicholas could have told it that this food is very bad to aunt, and but he didn't. He might have fear to talk to the aunt, and the conversational gap between them, and uh, so on. He so that he puts the frog into the milk. This shows the generation gap between them. Then the aunt tells that at first she tells that wasn't any strawberry jams, but when she was in the danger, she tells the truth as there was strawberry jams, and there's no point of hiding the things like strawberry jams in the children's uh, in the teenagers and in the adults and the adolescent period. Uh, uh, children's might uh, uh, children might ask many food from their parents, and uh, they ask uh, even though they ask food from their parents or the caretakers uh, repeatedly, and but they won't eat that so much. So the aunt could have given a little bit strawberry jam to the Nicholas, but she didn't give, and and then she didn't give, and it's no point of hiding the things like strawberry jam, because children's need the things which is tastier to them, and they won't like the things like the bread and milk, which is considered as the wholesome food by the aunt. And when we look at the point of view here, this is the third person omniscient point of view, and we can see that this is sometimes this is a limited third person omniscient point of view, because we can only see, because the narrator can only sometimes the narrator can only see the plans of the Nicholas, not the inner ideas of the Nicholas. And sometimes it is a fully omniscient point of view, because narrator is able to see the inner ideas of the aunt, which is her hypocritic manner in the strawberry jam scene. And uh, uh, and we can see the tone here. The tone here is sarcastic, and mostly it is ironic and uh, uh, humorous. And we can see many humorous situations here, as from the beginning of the breakfast scene, from the very end scene, uh, the rainbow tank scene. The humor is uh, used all over the prose, and uh, the main character Nicholas is who is the representative of the younger generation. It is ironic that he makes humor by using the ideas of the adult generation, and he's a very much example for that. The children can overtake the ideas and overtake the manners of the adults, and he's a very much inspiration for the today's generation. Thank you for hearing.
Next, I would like to invite Ms. Abana to deliver her presentation.
Good evening to you all. Today I am going to present on the Lahore attack, which comes under the phrase an extract from Colin Cowardly lecture. This speech was given by Kumar Sangakkara on 5th of July 2011. Um, so Kumar Sangakkara is a world-class cricketer who is best known as a Sri Lankan cricketer. We all know that sports give strength to the sportsman physically and also mentally. Um and here, Kumar Sangakkara start his poem in a great manner. Now we can go into the speech. Um he start his speech. I was fortunate during my life I never experienced violence in Sri Lanka firsthand. Here I was fortunate. This is the first person point of view. Uh, the fortunate the word fortunate indicates that he is lucky. During my life, it means the uh, beginning of his life, which means from the born, and nowadays what is he? He never experienced violence in Sri Lanka firsthand because he's in safe place. So he could not experience violence in Sri Lanka. Even he experienced violence in other countries. There have been so many explosions over the year, but I was never in the wrong place at the wrong time. Um, he said that he was never at the wrong place at the wrong time because he's at the right place. Here the word wrong is repeating. So the word wrong is called as repetition. Uh, Here the society maybe can the position to uh, don't experience violence in Sri Lanka. In Colombo, apart from these occasional bombs, life was relatively normal. People had the luxury life of being physically detached from the war. In Colombo, apart from these occasional bombs, means uh, in there are occasional bomb blasters um, in Sri Lanka in northern parts, no, not in Colombo. Uh, and children went to school, people went to work. I played my cricket. Uh, the lives of the children and adults are normal in the other parts than the northern part. He played his cricket. The word my cricket means possessive pronoun. Um, but in the place where the attack held in Sri Lanka, people uh, had to plan their work earlier because they had to be safe in their motherland. They had to avoid bullets, shells, mines, and grenades. Uh, at a time, Kumar Sangakkara had to go to